Mr. Mongjo Nu, who is the president of the Burmese Rohingya Association in Thailand. Now, I'll have to ask you to be concise, 5-8 minutes, in order for us to have some time for the audience and for questions and comments.
Ming, my friend sent me an email just this morning. I got it. So it's better please give mic to them first. They are my junior, but they are the young generation like Dr. Cho, the Cho Yin Lang. Okay. And they tell me who is not coming. Then I will talk. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Mr. Cho Yin Lang also. We are friends. We have usually talk together about the issues about Rohingyas. So I have to share some information that is not the same as that previous speakers. It is first thing. Second thing is the latest development in our region. I was born and brought up in Buthinang Township. Still, this is the crisis area, we can say. So the problem is, first of all, MSF problem. This MSF was expelled from the Rakhine state, not from other places. This MSF is running in Eraudi, Rangoon, Kachin state, somewhere else, no problem. But I think in our Rakhine state, there is no medical facility that Muslims should go, or Muslim can go to the doctors in the side of the doctors. They are not going to the doctors or hospital or not, they are permitted to go there. This is a latest problem. So MSF is only the single facility that the Muslim can get medical treatment. This is the most serious problem. The second serious problem is our education. We are now, since 2002, our Rohingya students cannot go to the universities, freely to the high school, freely to the regional college. We Rohingyas are stopped for more than 20 years that those who were qualified in matriculation examination, good grade, they are going to universities. I mean the medical college and the engineering college, professional universities. But the students are now, they are living at their villages, at their home, without going to the universities, without going to the schools. Even their high schools, their middle schools in our regions, these schools are separated by the school authorities. The one's partition is for Muslims, another partition is for Rakhine. So the situation, even the school surrounding is very dangerous now. So we are not getting education from the first. Second, we are not in the situation to have the medical treatment in the side of the Rakhine doctors. There are no Muslim employees in hospitals, in medical facilities, so this is a problem. And another one is the one who is very serious and chronic diseases, they cannot come from Rakhine state to the Rangoon without the government's permission, step by step. Any patients should take the prior information from the authority concerns. To travel from our Rakhine state to the Yangon is very hard job and time consuming and money. So we have to pay a lot of money. Just since 2002, the year 2002, this is a great problem just right now. The second thing is 2002 years, there was, I think, the commission formed by the president in, I think, since August. So the result, what was coming out from the investigation commission was not meeting the Muslims' wishes, particularly. Mr. MP Abdul Ghaffar is my grandfather. In the commission, we found very horrendous idea and a sentence that this MP was a terrorist or mujahideen. But actually, these persons already surrendered all the mujahideen at that time. So there is not only the Rohingya mujahideen, there are many fighters around about 1950s and 60s. Even there are lots of insurgents in our country, Karen, Chan, Mon, even from Burma. It is not nothing to say, but we have had the insurgent, but these insurgents were gone away 15, 16 years ago. We have no insurgents. People will say we are mujahideen, something like that. Mr. Abdul Ghaffar was accused as a terrorist in the 2012 Commission. Nowadays it is the Dushiradan problem. So Dushiradan problems after this was erupted, I think, in January 13. After the couple of weeks, even there are only the government's, I think, inspection team were there to check this and that, something like that. But as far as we have information, I think there are 48 people already died, already massacred. People fled away to the nearby villages. So it is very horrendous and very serious. We feel very bad about that. That is why people ask the international community's investigation, because people are afraid of to tell the things to the Burmese people, to tell the things to the Rakhine people, because they feel Rakhine's people and Burmese union governments make this trend, this program, this plan to harass the Muslim community, particularly since 1920. Since 1920, people cannot move from one village to another village, even the one county, one township to another township, for the purpose of the education, for the purpose of commerce, for the purpose of medical treatment. How the people will live there? So that is why this very compelling situation in our Rakhine state. So I don't want to exaggerate that our doctors, Uchamila says, this is the real thing. Even I cannot go to my place, to my Butirang township. There, my parents are still, they are old now, 80 years, 75 years. I can't go there. They can come to the Rangoon, to the proper Rangoon to have the medical treatment. My point is, we are citizens of the nation. We are Rohingyas. It is not exaggeration. The Rohingyas, what is not created or fabricated. Rohingyas, what was found, or this is started by Mr. Francis Buchanan Hamilton. It's a doctor, surgeon. He worked in Inwa in the last period, in the kingdom period, for example. He met some people from Rakhine state and then asked these people, from where you came? People said, we came from Rakhine state, we are Rohingyas. This is not a Muslim, or this is not Buddhist, or this is a foreigner, this is from this Englishman. So he written about the contemporary vocabulary words, the Rohingyas, words, they always prescribe the Rohingyas what? So Rohingyas was started, the word Rohingyas particularly was prescribed or exposed since 1799. It is 1823, it is 25 years before 1823 cutoff. Government in our country, there is a rule or criteria. The one who live in our country or territorial places before 1823, he or she is the indigenous people. So we are 25 years before the cut of the 1823, so we are automatically indigenous people. But still their media, journals and government, official staff sometimes say something different from one place to another. It is very funny and ridiculous. We are suffering this. So after that, in 1950s, when there was the first democratic period in our country, we Rohingyas were recognized by the government. We have got chances to form the University Rohingya Association. We have got chances to broadcast our programs in the BBS, Burma Broadcasting Service. Ubatung was my real uncle. He broadcasted this thing from 1961 to 1965, October 31st, even 6 years. Even many things we have got. Still we have Mayushi. Mayushi, this is the military government compiled this book. In this Mayushi, we have had the strong document. Fortunately, I would like to share my information. 2013, in the university's distance education curriculum, first year geography, there is the Northern Rakhine state, there is written a paragraph that Rohingyas people are residing in Northern Rakhine state. This is the last version, last update. So it is nothing to be to be arguable or something that to be doubted. So we are Rohingyas. We are not doing these things as to be fabricated or my Rakhine brothers to say us that so and so. How things we Rohingyas can take away the Rakhine state or we dominate the people, things that like that. Where is this Rohingyas organization? Where is this terrorist organization? There is no terrorist organization. Rohingya. Of course, there were 30, 40 years like Rohingyas. We have organization RSO, something like that. Nowadays, this is not. This is finished already. This is cleared by the government of Bangladesh. So even they say we are infiltrators, we are aliens, we Bengalis sneak here. So in Rakhine State, there's 20 years now, they have military outposts, even 20 military outposts there. Even we have census about even animal, even coconut census, even animal census. Keep aside the people census.
Mr. Khan, Mr. Khan.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to summarize.
Yes, I am going to conclude. Okay. So my point is, we Rohingyas are very optimistic about to make conciliation, making the bridge with the governments of Union of Myanmar to get help, and the brothers in Rakhine State for the reconciliation. We Rohingyas cannot live in the bleak camps in Rakhine State. It is very horrendous situation. We can't live. No human beings can live like a situation. Not only Rakhine State, but also the whole Rakhine State. We are, in the big concentration camp. This is the things. Government can do this as soon as possible for our living standard be better, I think. So this is the time for the governments to make us better life. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Sawadikap, Minglawa. Actually, the question is survival question. I'm not very much interested the speech, and also the leader was also once with me, the panel speaker at the Chiang Mai University 2012. His speech at that time and now at present and in between in Europe a bit different. But this is also, I know that this is very academic, very, the highly respected area, so that we don't like to use any bazaar language here. This is not also parliament, sometime opposition and they are using some bad usage. Due to the historian, I'm not mentioning my friend, my colleague, since Hitler region and the Pol Pot, the Rwanda and everywhere, when there is before starting genocide or something, ethnic cleansing, the dictator, absolute power holder of the dictatorial government agent, they create some which you call a spokesperson. Since naming to now, this is nearly 50 years. I have been in politics since 1974. I was in the prison regarding the Utan uprising, like 88 general, the general uprising. At that time, Utan uprising was also very famous in Myanmar. The dictator came into the power in 1962 from the back door. Abolished the democratic government. Abolished my brother-in-law who said that the name is Mr. Abdul Ghaffar. Someone here, I think, I don't know who, said that he's the ridiculous or the terrorist or something like that. Mr. Abdul Ghaffar was known as, in the Asia, one of the best parliamentarian during 1948 to before 1960. If you go and study the history, you will know that. Also, I'm not talking much, what's his name? Mr. Khan, I think, Khan. Okay. Because they are in Yangon. I appreciate him, how he brave enough to talk something, because they are also like in the prison, like in the in the cage, and the people in Arkan is like big prisoners in our area. I also like to appreciate something Dr. Choi in line. Some points I'm very happy because he is very dear enough to talk something. They're very openly, clearly, and I love his, the people, he's from the Shan state, they are very clear and open mind. And also, since 50 years under the successive military regime, there is not a person dare to talk. They have to translate only for 1% system. For example, naming regime. What naming say, they have to approve. Somong regime, what Somong say, they have to approve. Teng Shui regime, what Teng Shui have to say, they have to approve. Everybody have to say yes, 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 yes. And Tenzing now is very complicated. I said, Tenzing, please don't mind that. We are the Democrat from Myanmar. We are very highly respectable person. I am one of them. I am more senior than Aung San Suu Kyi. Not only myself. We have the 62 generation, 88, 40, the 74 generation and 88 generation. My leader was hanged to death. He is a Shan national ethnic. His name is Lang Ting Mong U. He was 20 plus. Without trial, he was hanged to death in Insing prison because he only led the student, which you call the demonstration. I am one of them. At that time, I was in the prison. So I don't like to lengthy my speech. I appreciate to Dr. Chow in line again because before I talk with him, because he looked like my younger brother, two younger brother. I think your birth year is 1968 or 67, something like that. But you dare to talk something in China, in Laos, in Cambodia, my neighboring country, even Bangladesh. If anybody talk against the policy of the government, they get killed, they get extrajudicial killing, they got, which you call the, death sentence, they have to go to the prison. So be careful, my younger friend. However, another thing, we are not Bengali. If we are the Bengali, my friend, the leaders say that Bangladesh was independent from Pakistan, separated from Pakistan 1971. He said that Bangladesh was very happy because they exported many Bengalis to the Arkan state. Today, this is my second time this week, I'm going to request all the audience, including especially United States and Bangladesh, Prime Minister and government and United Nations, please go and survey my area months after months. Only check, is there any Muslim Rohingya, the Bengali Muslim in my area? I challenge, there is not a single Rohingya Muslim there. Of course, you can find more than 1 million Buddhist Rakhine. We are not calling mock. Sorry, no. Please go study. I will give you the paper, sir. In 1823, British say that when they entered the Myanmar, they had the mock regiment. The mock regiment came into the Arkan, first time 1823, I think. After that, Central Lower Burma, then I think 1886, they completely, they occupied the whole Burma. So this is the mock regiment. The mock, they loved the name. Rakhine name was invented. And another thing, I would like to go to the history. Please, I would like to request to all the audience, please.
Mr. Wong, I'm sorry. Please.
Okay, yeah, the point. Sorry, because please do something like please arrange the historical debate with international historian. We have a lot of historians in the Chulalongkorn and the Tamasar also. This is my point. Second is survival question. We are very much unwanted. We are one of the most persecuted people in the world. Our voice is unheard, but I'm very happy today. We are not friendless. You are doing a lot, the Thai people or something. We are unwanted everywhere before. Still, we are most suffering in the neighboring countries also. Bangladesh, the Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand. The people are very nice due to the system. Due to the system, we have nearly, I think, according to the Chris Lever, Arkan Project said that last year 80,000 people came out by sea. Where is these people? They are so that my question is, please focus the political solution for our people. Political solution. And please send, we also ask the international protection or ASEAN protection, please protect the people, remaining people, Rohingyas in our area, as well as those who are out of Arkan. please give them some sorts of shelters to be survived, especially in Thailand. And this is my two questions, because I don't like to kill your time. Thank you very much for giving me the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Phil Robertson with Human Rights Watch. First of all, I just wanted to make a brief correction to my friend Gwen's characterization of our work on Rakhine State as saying that we have advocated or stated that there was a genocide that took place. We have never said that. We have said that there has been crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing that has taken place there, and I'd be happy to talk about our findings. These are specific international legal terms, and we don't play games with international legal terms. If we found that there was genocide, we would have said that and backed it up with legal evidence, but we did not find that. So it's a misnomer to say that we're exaggerating the situation there. My question actually is to Dr. Jia Yin Lang. We read the first report of the commission looking into the violence in 2012 very closely, and one of our major critiques, which has not yet been really answered by the government or by the commission, is why accountability was not a major recommendation in that report. Essentially, the recommendation was to create another committee to look at accountability issues. This is very worrisome because in our research we found things like mass graves. We found significant mobilization and instigation of hatreds by various different officials, and so there's a lot to look at there. For some reason that has not been part of the dynamic, and when we've sought to raise this or discuss this with Burmese government officials, there has not been really a very welcome response to that. So I'd like to hear your views on that. Thanks.
Because when the commission could only do what we were mandated to do. The question you raised was not a part of our mandate. That's why we could only recommend that this should be looked into. That's exactly the reason that, we didn't talk about it.
Their language and their religion all lies mostly same with the Bengali from Bangladesh. And then and then they think that they are just refugee. Why they don't consider they are job seeker or victim of the human trafficking? And then if you think only they are refugee, like you neglect the human trafficking, and to fight the human trafficking will be weak, will be neglect. As you know, there in Thailand also they have many human trafficking issues, including Myanmar. And then my last one is that I found the 2014 UNHCR country operation profile Myanmar in UNHCR website. I would like to ask Dr. Jia Yin Lang if you know or not. They have I found the two versions. One I checked this on 2013 January, and then later they changed their report. And I will tell you I will read the first report. They say that UNHCR assists some 800,000 Muslim residents who do not have citizenship. Members of this group were allowed to vote in the November 2010 election using temporary registration card issued for that purpose by the government. Initial discussion on replacing the temporary document with card denoting full citizenship took place at different administrative levels. And then after some activists criticized this issue, the UNHCR changed their report. How they change this? Over 800,000 persons are limited to without citizenship in the northern part of Rakhine State. And they say, first they say UNHCR assists. Later they change UNHCR is advocating for the state. So do you think the Inquiry Commission, do you know this issue? And
okay, thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
Please. Why they give 800,000 Bengali Muslim to temporary card, national card? And then, do you think this will be the violation of the election
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you off here. Sorry, other people will also have a chance to raise questions and comments. You had three questions.
Okay.
The first point you made about how to quantify, we'll take that into consideration. The second one is about the Bo people, why they're considered refugees, not migrants seeking jobs and so on through Malaysia, Thailand, and so on. Okay, we'll take that into consideration. I'll ask Dr. Jaw to answer the third question.
It's kind of a complicated situation over there. That, like in 2010, there was a rumor, probably true, that, like, you know, what they call white cards were issued to Muslims in Butidong and Maungdaw, and then some other areas in Rakhine State. When we ask people who were alleged to be involved in it, no one was willing to come forward. So the kind of, like, you know, this is like in 2010, the country was still under the military government. Like, you know, what happened in that part of the country, we didn't really know for sure. But one thing I can tell you is this will become a major problem in 2015. Like, you know, what they're going to do, and we ask, they still don't have a clear answer. So.
Thank you.
Do you think the last 2012 crisis is one of the reasons because of this issue?
You don't answer. You may address that in the next round, okay? We'll take the next round. The gentleman there in the jacket, and then you in the back.
A little bit, Chairman, could you give me a little, just about 5 minutes in brief?
Sorry, I cannot give you 5 minutes. We're running out of time and other questions and comments. So if you have a question or a comment to make, please go ahead.
The question, first of all, let me introduce myself. My party is AFP-FL. Our national leader, General Aung San, led the party. And I'm the responsible party of the last election, 1990, General Secretary of the party. What today discussion is my country problem. So as a responsible person for the former party, I have the responsibility to talk a bit, and at the same time, I agree certain points with Dr. Choi Line, what the government policy is. So if I not get a time little bit, about 5 minutes, it is very difficult for me to explain.
Okay, please tell us your name. You have 1-2 minutes. You can make your point or you make your statements, but we don't have 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
The statement is, I would like to say, throughout the Burma, the Muslim problem is created problem. Which period and why it's happened today, there's a background. So I cannot finish just 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It's a plan from the time the country become the dictatorship. That's all.
Okay, thank you. What was your name, sir?
My name is Maung Maung Ji. I have written 3 letters about this matter to the General Thein Sein.
Okay, thank you.
On behalf of as a former Secretary General of the AFP-FL.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your last statement, I think, at the end was that the government has been restricted and restrained in giving information to the press corps, which has led to a sensationalist media. I'd instead put it to you that because of the really nascent nature of the press corps in Myanmar, we are seeing this rumour mill being picked up, and that's at the root of the heart of the problem here that we have to address. And the reason that the government is indeed being restrictive in the information they put across is because of the lack of education, the lack of training within the press corps, and that's something the international community should be focusing on. So I'd like to get your comments on that, and anyone else on the panel. who'd like to comment? Thank you.
I think the government, for whatever reasons, some of them might be deliberate, others are just sheer lack of capacity in terms of their whole approach to press, and they're feeling their way just like the Myanmar media is feeling its way with these newfound freedoms. So in the case of domestic media, because I think we should delineate between domestic and international, but with the domestic media, you know, that very much is the case, that there's a kind of complete explosion of free press now compared to even a year ago, let alone 2 years ago. And meanwhile, the blogosphere has gone mad as well. And in that particular case, you've got a lot of partisan groups like Rohingya groups and Rakhine Buddhist groups and, in fact, extremist groups, all blogging and with varying degrees of helpfulness and some very unhelpful. But I would say that my whole point was that as long as the government restricts or is opaque on a lot of these issues, they've got to expect that, you know, the media is not just going to slope off and say nothing. So you'll get more sensationalism or more rumour. They don't have much choice except to seize on whatever facts or rumour they can glean. So there's a lot of recycling of information that comes out from various lobby and interest groups. But, you know, it is a very good point. You need capacity building on both sides, and media training is a huge thing now in Myanmar, with a lot of NGOs and other organisations getting involved in training journalists, and also, it has to be said, the government. There's a lot of media training going on of the Information Ministry and various bureaucrats that are handling dealings with press. And right now I gather that there are initiatives afoot to specifically focus on the Rakhine situation and get some better, more reliable press coming and better transparency on the government side, but that remains to be seen. Thanks for bringing it up.
Let me start with the question and then just take a little bit of background. The question is, we haven't heard about this very complicated question: what is the role of the Burmese military in this situation? What is the role and what are the interests of the Burmese military? I ask because I think everyone would recognize we're talking about the central government, we're talking about local governments, but in a sensitive border area, the military has an overwhelming influence. And just one background point, we heard the gentleman say that the reason accountability was not looked into was because accountability was not part of the mandate. I would say that's not surprising, and in the cases I've looked at, I'll just take one case where the police actually opened fire, used illegal weapons against peaceful monks and protesters. The president set up a commission, this was in the Lepadong copper mine, initially allowing the commission headed by Aung San Suu Kyi to ask questions of the police. The mandate was changed the very next day by the president to take out the ability to ask questions of the police. And my reading of the Constitution is you have an independent military that is not subject to civilian authority in any respect under the Constitution. So that very much complicates this question and questions of accountability. So I'd like to introduce what the panelists think is the interests and role of the military here.
Actually, the word Rohingya, they call them as Rohingyas, like BBC, VOA, Al Jazeera, and ABC, APA, International Committee, etc. But my question is, do you think there must purposely be something the word behind Rohingya that has not been recognized by almost all the academic scholars?
You mean as opposed to using the word Bengali?
Do you think there is? Do you think there must purposely be something the word Rohingya that has not been recognized by almost all the academic scholars? So, because if you go actually UN, HRC or OIC or NGO, I think there must be something behind the word Rohingya. So could you please clarify?
Sure, sorry, but I just want to clarify.
So your question is about whether the name, the term Rohingya.
Actually, the behind the 10 Rohingya.
That there is some purpose.
If there is some, if there is some purpose behind the 10 Rohingya.
All right. Okay, we'll take that into account. I'll take the last one. There was that gentleman there.
This is Kaji Russell Pervez. I'm the counselor of Bangladesh Embassy in Bangkok. Thank you, distinguished panelists, for your very extensive and elaborate discussion on this discourse. I have a very small question to Mr. Jack later. Before that, I just want to share some information. We have 2 camps in our Cox's Bazar area. This is close to Myanmar border, and there are around 30,000 we call it Myanmar nationals in that camp, and we are supporting them with the assistance of UNHCR. And outside the camp, it is estimated that 500,000 Myanmar nationals are living in Bangladesh, especially in the coastal areas or the bordering areas. So our government has, our cabinet has adopted a national strategy in September 2013. The purpose is to have a survey of these undocumented Myanmar nationals, and we have been engaged with Myanmar government for their voluntary repatriation. Some up to 2005, I think few thousands Myanmar nationals had already been repatriated to Myanmar with a bilateral cooperation or engagement with Myanmar government. And since then it has been stopped. So we have been engaging with the Myanmar government to take these Myanmar nationals back to their country. And this is information. Now my question is Mr. Jack later in his presentation he informed that after 1971 some Bengalis from the Chittagong area they were immigrated to Myanmar. And as far as our information is that during our 9 months long liberation war in 1971, 120,000 people temporarily immigrated to India, and after our independence was over, we took all of them back. But as far as our knowledge, there is nobody that immigrated to Myanmar. So if you could kindly give us the sources so that we can have a study on this. Thank you very much.
Joy in line, I know you disclaimed being a representative of the government, but you're obviously very close to the president. I wonder, why is the Burmese government not prepared to allow an international inquiry into the most recent incident? You've been very eloquent about explaining the mistrust in the area, and part of that mistrust is also any government inquiry. We could solve the issue by having an independent international inquiry. Why not?
I think they're all really great questions, and I'll just make a few comments about some of them. I think that first thing is to address the discussion over the exaggeration of stories and the sensationalization from the media and everything. I think that when we're talking about this, we're talking about the events taking place in North Rakhine. And I do think that probably one of the solutions to this would be simply for the Burmese government to allow people, particularly freelance journalists and journalists from the International Press Corps, as well as journalists from Myanmar itself, to have full access to this particular area. I think it would just make sense that this would then end up clearing up a lot of the discussions and conjecture that people have about what is happening in these particular 3 townships that has been a black hole for all these years. So I can't accept the fact that people would say that there is a lack of information coming out of North Rakhine. But the fact is that as long as the press corps is not allowed free access to these areas, we're going to continue to have these kind of very frustrating discussions. I've been working on this story for 8 years now. I will gladly go up to North Rakhine State if the Burmese government would allow me to go, but unfortunately they don't. One other comment, and then I'll let other panelists talk, is I think that we can also talk a lot about the definitions of identity, the debate over the historical context of all this. But what this really comes down to is that we have 2 communities of people that are living in Rakhine State. One particular community is not at all equal to the other one in the way that things are moving forward with the democratic reforms that are taking place in Burma. And I think that, looking at things in a human rights context is very, very important right now. From journalists, from independent researchers, and I think that that is something that continually needs to be brought back into the discussion instead of taking a lot of these tangents when it comes to the historical perspectives that are trying to realize what's going on today with what's happening in Rakhine State.
Dr. Jacques, leader, you also mentioned a distinction between ethnic cleansing and genocide. Perhaps you can cover that as well.
Well, I wanted to say thank you to what Phil Robertson said, drawing attention to the fact that we should make distinctions between these terminologies. I myself try my best to, when I'm quoting, to use the terms as they are used. I also want to attract attention to the fact that the Rakhine themselves have been using the term genocide with regard to what had happened to them in the late 18th century. There's in a certain way an abuse of the terminology there that we can also attract attention to. Then reacting to the question that I was asked about what I said with regard to those who would have moved from Bangladesh after the war, independence war, I'm simply quoting the book of Moshe Yeager, a book from 2002 that I can give you the reference right away. I've been checking yesterday with people from UNHCR in the way that I represent their action, and I also got several corrections where they were drawing attention that I didn't really mention this correctly, so I want to be correct on that. Personally, what I have to say on what Yeager wrote there about he is using the term illegal migration, I am not in a position, and I've precisely said that we lack information on that. But there are in British diplomatic correspondence some comments from the Bangladeshi ambassador from 1975 that quite clearly says that they were grateful, Bangladesh was grateful to the Burmese government that they had accepted temporarily refugees moving over the border. And then I don't have information on what happened later, but I also suppose that many of these obviously went back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Leader. Ms. Robinson, the term Rohingya and so on.
I assume you're talking about, as opposed to Bengali, the only two terms I know are Rohingya or Bengali. Yes?
So actually, my question, it does not refer to the question of the term Rohingya. My question refers only to behind the word Rohingya, but I don't need to know the indefinite, the word Rohingya. But what, because one UN or any other organization went to the Rakhine side, they only asked one side for Rohingya, but they didn't ask any, any person, anyone from Rakhine side.
Do you think that they should be called Bengali? Is that your point?
No. So is there something behind the term Rohingya? Why they keep asking for that? Yes.
So the justification.
Oh, you mean instead of talking to Rakhine Buddhist people?
Because I don't want you to define the term Rohingya, but I just need to know what is the purpose or behind the word Rohingya, because they keep only asking for that chance. So because when they went to the Rakhine side, they only asked one side, they don't ask other side.
Yeah,
so
the political motivations behind this term, okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, on the part of only speaking as international media and also doing research here, I'd say that for most people covering it for international media, there's no political reason or rationale for using the term Rohingya. That's how they refer to them, or else there's Bengali, but I think there's political connotations of using that, and I think I hope that's what you're getting at, but I would not ascribe political motivations for using the term Rohingya.
Larry, we're longtime friends and you know better than that. I'm not going to answer your question. I don't know. You'll have to ask the government. I still keep my own position that I work with them. I don't work for the government. So I don't know. But here, everything I've said here, and then my friend over there seems to suggest that, we have to. I'm doing something like totally opposite of the government policy, which is not true though. I'm not saying that everyone in the government will agree with me, but these days, you can talk about these things quite freely in Yangon and many areas. But I'm not saying that anything will come out of it. You can at least talk about it, and then but people will have to discuss this issue. Regularly, since we have this problem in the country, and then the role of the military. Right now, I cannot talk about. I don't want to talk about the role of the military prior to 2012, but after 2012, riots, the military is the only institution, sort of, trusted by both communities, mainly because there are many Rakhines in police forces, and then the military units got people from different ethnic backgrounds, and then when you go, I've done some interviews in controversial areas like Nyevo and some other areas nearby. They don't really, the IDPs, Muslim IDPs, they don't really want the military units to move out. The main thing is that they told us, without them, we will be in trouble, that they don't feel safe. Right now, the military units are the only the institutions trusted. And then, to tell you the truth, since we started working on this issue, they've been doing a pretty good job. That's the main reason we recommended that there should be more military units in the area. And then I have several examples that indicate that they have done a pretty good job in terms of maintaining law and order. And then earlier it was suggested that people were too afraid to talk to the commission. That is not true. Please don't underestimate female members of your community. They are very brave. And then some of our interviews were recorded by local community members, and they already uploaded it online. And then, we don't want to do it because we don't want anybody. We promise confidentiality, and we are going to keep it. But our interview, the voice files are now available online, and you can listen to those voice files. How vibrant and how brave these women are, and where. But the point I'm trying to make is that, they talk about it. However, available evidence didn't back it up. That's the point I want to make. I agree with Greg that if I have my way, I would want more international media in that area. But the government doesn't allow it yet, so that's beyond my control. I cannot do much about it. But that would be better, if many people see things with their own eyes and they can make their own judgment. Right now, one of the biggest problem is people try to infer all kinds of conditions, all kinds of conclusions on very presumptuous conditions. We don't know. Why the government didn't ask us. I mean, it's not that I don't know, but sometimes the government didn't ask you not to work on the accountability, but they look at the issues from different perspectives. They might think that that is not the case. They're just trying to maintain law and order. I'm not saying that they are right. Here the reason is EU is now trying to run. EU is running police training, especially riot control. So the biggest problem is probably these police officers, police the battalions, they didn't know how to control the crowd properly. And then one last point I want to make is, as I said earlier, there are good and bad people in both communities. And then, like, you know, in the international media and in many reports, Rakhine people have been misrepresented. There are bad people among Rakhine people, but not all Rakhine people are bad. There are good people who want to do the right thing, but if you portray them in negative light, then, like, you know, you're pushing them to become, like, you know, either politically different or, like, you know, to become more critical of the other side. So here, I mean, like, you know, we all need to try to come up with a fair and balanced report, and that we need to work harder on this.
Thank you very much. Please join me. We've run out of time, over time, in fact. Please join me in thanking all the speakers, and thank you for coming.